My parents used to grow corn in the backyard in Broadmeadows, and I used to lay down in the cornfield in the middle of it all and just would look up into the sky and just think, who am I and where do I come from? And really never had answers at that age and didn't know where to look or didn't know where to find those answers. When I was 10, actually, it's when I started thinking about where do I come from? Where do my parents come from? What about their life before I came into this world? It really isn't normal for a child to think or go through those thought process. So I still now think, who was that child that actually started thinking about those things? Because I really don't know still. I started having difficulty explaining to people who I was and where I came from. So when people ask me, where do you come from? I would just say, I'm Australian, because I am. But then they go, no, where do you really come from? For a 10-year-old, it's like, what do you mean? Am I not Australian? Why can't you just accept that? So that's why I started thinking, okay, then I am a little bit different to other people that can say I'm Australian and no one actually questions it or asks further information. So that's why I started thinking about how we got to Australia, and before I came to Australia, what happened with that part of my life. And then I started realising that my parents and older sisters don't speak about it at all, and trying to ask questions, we just met a blank wall, just silence about it. So that's when I started thinking, all right, maybe there's something that I need to find out about where I come from, and it became a really interesting journey. I was asked to write a story, so I thought I'd write about my family's life before coming to Australia and their escape from Cambodia, and asked my sisters and parents a little bit more, and then I started getting a little bit more information, and I had enough to write a little short story. My teacher read it and he really, really enjoyed it, and he said I should read it to the class. And so I read the story to the class. Something in that room was just a feeling I had. I don't know if anyone else felt it, but I certainly felt this passion or sense of sadness with the other kids when they realised that this person that they're in class with is actually, this story is actually really sad and amazing at the same time, and that really fed me to actually find out more about that period of my life. It's that blank part of my life is actually what's shaping me now without me even realising it in some way that I can't explain or articulate right now, but it did. It's just this nothing that I needed to find out more about. It was like this undercurrent of something that I was so curious about, and all through my teens I just got stronger and stronger, and I kind of kept it on the back burner through my teens until I felt I was ready to find out more. There had to be something quite interesting in there. If it wasn't amazing, it would be extremely sad. If it wasn't, it was something incredible, and I just wanted to know what it was. And even though it's tough for me to ask questions, there's something in my 20s that decided, you know what, I'll make them cry a little bit because I think it's good for them to face those questions. For me, I wanted to know as well. I've done photography, and I used to exhibit my work, and all of that was all about the story of my mum and how she escaped Cambodia. We used to sit down and I would interview her and jot down what she was saying, and slowly finding out that I had an elder sister that passed away before I was born. To raise the child until she was 11 years old, and then to have that child die in her arms, is something I can't even tell you what that could feel like. And so to hear that from my mum, and we're both crying, it was just the beginning. Then I found out that she was in a prison camp for 3 years of her life. And then I found out that she gave birth in that prison camp all alone. I found out that she was strong enough to escape. And then that period of her life, 3 years, was just relentless torture, because you couldn't show any weakness, you couldn't show any illness, and you couldn't show any kindness to anyone else. So any show of those things, words I've just said, could mean your execution. and the execution of your child that you're raising in prison. That blank part of my life was actually in prison with my mother for a child, even though they probably don't remember it. It was lived in fear, malnourished, threat of torture. So I guess I know that you can't go through that without being scarred somehow, whether it's on an unconscious level. For me anyway, it's impossible to escape. Even a child's innocence can't overcome that kind of evil. And so I think that's what shaped me as a person, even at a young age when I didn't know about it. And it certainly shaped me now as an adult now that I do know about it. But I feel like if I can say that I've been able to embrace that part of my life and really use it to drive me with what I want to do. I couldn't believe that a child had to go through that, be born in prison, and have other human beings around that thought that was okay. Whatever the politics or what was happening in the bigger world, I still couldn't believe that there was people that stood there, looked at this woman pregnant and allow her to give birth alone in prison. So I wanted to fight for other children like that are going through things like that right now. That's what I've dedicated my life to, and I feel so comfortable saying that now. I want to fight for children's rights. That's where the Baby Tree Projects was born, and Baby Tree Projects is based on the belief that the world is still a beautiful place, and if we work together, then we can do anything. And working together means adults, but also children being involved in helping, because as a 10-year-old child, when I was in that classroom telling that story, those kids would have done something to help if they had an opportunity to do so. Looking back to that 10-year-old boy now, I don't think much has changed. I'm still looking for those answers. But what has changed is that I think I'm more confident in accepting that maybe I'll never find the answers, and that's okay. But when I was 10, what I took away from it was life is beautiful still, you know, after all that, because here was a woman that sat in front of me, and it's the most beautiful woman in the world, the strongest person I will ever meet. It just made me realise that life is amazing and beautiful, and I need to embrace it and just go with it. And that's where my faith is. It's faith in humanity. It's what I've got.
It's a blue, bright blue Saturday, and the pain has started to slip away. I'm in a backless dress on a pastel wall that's shining. Think I want you still, but it may be bills at work. Do you really wanna know how I was dancing on the floor? I was trying